See, can't even turn the camera. We're already talking and the camera just now turned on. God bless America.
What do you mean by it just turned on?
Well, I just hit record and sit down.
Oh, okay. Okay, sweet.
So we're recording already.
We're already just, boom, ready to go.
Cold opens, baby.
Cold opens?
We see
I
where the
love cold
magic
opens.
happens.
Yeah, this is the magic.
Yes.
Cold opens.
Yes.
What is this going to be called? Any clue?
I thought all night trying to come up with some sort of pun, like Game of Moans, but it's supposed to be House of the Dragon, so I don't know.
Yeah, I watched it with friends first.
Mhm.
I watched it twice. I watched it with friends who we all, when a big show like this that we like happens.
What are friends?
How dare you? We all watch these shows as they come out, whatever, The Bear, House of the Dragon.
Okay.
The big shows, when they happen, we watch them together. And I knew we were going to be recording this, so I watched it under the guise of, okay, pay attention, have things to talk about.
Mhm.
And when I did, all I could do was I kept forgetting that Rhaenyra is even in it because of their absence of her. And by the halfway through the episode, I was like, oh, they're doing such a good job because I don't even need to know what she's up to.
Mm-hmm.
Like those shows, Game of Thrones did it really well. This show's doing it really well, where there's the main character, the person you want to see their story the most.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get 5 minutes of their story in an hour-long episode and be totally satisfied because of how good the rest of the story is. And they really do a great job in season 2 of Game of Thrones.
What's this episode about?
Is this a trick?
House of the Dragon.
House
Cue
of the
the clip,
Dragon.
baby. Welcome, Internet. I am Diet Dr. Paul, and with me, not as always, is Christopher Catone, the savant a la Game of Thrones. He is who the writer went to George R.R. Martin to put the books out, basically. So this man's
Right.
knowledge runs deep and thick with Game of Thrones. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's,
Thank you for being here.
Thank you again. I want to reiterate that it's Game of Thrones that my knowledge is deep on. House of the Dragon's all new to me.
Yeah.
I'm deep in the world,
Mhm.
but everything I know about's 110 years in the future of this show.
Mhm.
But it is a breath of fresh air having something to watch and something to like re-obsess over, because I don't even know how many times I've seen the first show at this point, like all the way through. And
How many times did you watch the last season of Game of Thrones?
The last season, probably 4 times.
I saw it one time,
Yeah.
if that tells you anything.
I saw it one time for a long time.
Mhm.
And then when I rewatched all of it, I was like, I need to reacquaint myself with this season. And I would, if you had to ask me, like, I still know the least about that season
Mhm,
in terms of because if we rewatched all of Game of Thrones right now again, I'll see stuff that I won't like, that I have never seen before. That show is so rich and so full of detail from the showrunners, the people behind the scenes. One of my favorite things that show did was when the series finale happened, the next week there's still an episode to come out, and it was like a 2-hour documentary on the making of the entirety of the show, but really the last like 3 seasons is what they focus on. The guy in charge of snow, like snow on the ground,
I saw it. Yeah.
he won like 7 Emmys for best snow.
Really?
There's like
That's an award category?
Well, the yellow line in football has Emmys for digital a digital space for daytime Emmys. Like there's a giant dude. The Emmys are like 9 days before what we see. The Emmys people want to see. So they have all those
Jesus
Emmys.
Christ.
The guy from Game of Thrones has like he won every year for best snow.
That's
which
hysterical.
is an Emmy.
Hey, if I'd have known as a kid that they were giving those out, I would have changed my career path.
Right? I would have been like, ooh, I want to be the guy in charge of the snow on Game of Thrones. And
The Snow Apprentice.
yeah, and when you watch it, when you see like just how when you rewatch the show with the understanding of that, you're like, that dude. Can I? What do I?
Yeah,
what
go
can I
for it.
say? Anything?
Go for
that
it.
motherfucker has snow. He gets like a little pail, like a measuring cup, and he sprinkles it in spots where there will be shadows at noon of the day because the snow wouldn't have melted in the shadows. Like he goes in and like legitimately, if you pay attention to the lighting of a scene, that's how in-depth this world is. This is not House of the Dragon talk. This is the in-depthness of the world that we're talking about. And that's what House of the Dragon has to aspire to. They have to keep up
Yes.
with a 7-time Emmy award-winning snow guy.
Yes,
By the way,
that's true. Very true.
one snow guy.
One snow
He's
guy.
the only guy. There's like a room, there's a 5,000 square foot room full of, it's not real snow. It's like this paper mache stuff.
Yeah, I saw. I wonder what it was. It looked almost like wet toilet paper.
And that's what he says. That's the consistency, but it's very durable wet toilet paper. It's like something that does not break apart, and he
So
just
it doesn't
vacuums
melt.
it back up, and it's back in and like he'll vacuum certain parts up, and he's like, some of it you want to save, even though it has dirt and stuff in it, because there will be battle scenes where the dirt and stuff needs to be in it, so it's easier to recycle that snow than to dirty, clean new snow.
So he's got to figure out what order to suck the snow back up so he can store it properly.
And how to storage it and to label this.
It's
was
an
the
art
snow.
form, I guess.
Yeah, and dude, the guy has an Emmy every year or
And
something crazy.
And that's why I think that the difficulty is, and that's what we're going to talk about. It's a podcast about House of the Dragon, but what you ran into, I compared it a lot to The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Rich world, you're telling a story that is older and not as deeply explored by Tolkien himself in narrative form. Same with George R.R. Martin. So how do you compete with that without falling into the trap of being Michael Jordan's little brother? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that so far House of the Dragon's really done it. The cinematography on this is better than Game of Thrones, I think.
I agree. And
It's
I think a big
cinema
part of
level.
a big part of that is because they have more to work with right away.
Mhm.
Because it's like Roma and Parasite. Like Roma walked so Parasite could run. Game of Thrones ran so House of the Dragon could, Chicken George it down the lane, just sprint the whole way. No, there's no holding back. The season 8 shots of Daenerys with Drogon's wings behind her, those shots require millions and millions of dollars per episode of a budget. This first episode of season 2, there was like 5 times that me and my friends there's no dialogue. 5 times we all go, God damn.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
The scene where Rhaenyra is getting off her dragon, it's towards the beginning of the show, and she walks through like a pillar.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
is beautiful. Like, I'm like, that's crazy good.
When they open up the room full of candles that Queen Alicent walks through,
Mm-hmm.
the lighting is fading from pillar to pillar as the door opens and filling and evacuating the room of light at the same time. It's like a giant moving yin-yang sign of light around these pillars in the Great Hall. It's gorgeous.
It is. It's why I think there's such a fandom for this stuff, is
Yes.
because it's so rich. But not running into that issue is going to be the first thing that they have to deal with. The other thing they have to deal with is the climax points. What makes Game of Thrones is, one, too much nudity, over the top gore, but scenes that are unexpected. You can't be hand-fisted with. You have to pick your punches. And that's where I think the Game of Thrones, and this is for the most so far, is I think Game of Thrones really had some huge points. And I've
Giant ones.
lacked a little bit of that in House of the Dragon, that we don't have the red wedding scene.
Yeah.
We don't have Ned getting his head cut off.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think consistently it's been a better show through the first 11 episodes in terms of quality, acting, storytelling, the pacing. It's been able to, that was the big issue with Game of Thrones too, was the pacing, right? The first few seasons we had, it would take characters a year to get someplace. And then
Yeah.
in season 8, you have a whole an episode, and they're going from what would take two whole seasons to go this distance before. And so that was an issue that it was going to have to deal with. And I think it's still with all those things with kind of an aplomb of its own.
Well, Game of Thrones too, the way that they evolved in making that make sense was also that by the time season 8 is wrapping up, you're dealing with a 12th of the characters you had by the time season 2 started. Season 2 starts and there's I think there was 220 casted characters.
That's ridiculous.
With names. And then by the time season 4 it's like 470. Something crazy amount of characters.
Yeah.
And you need that much time to not forget what's going on because of all the stories being told. In House of the Dragon, they've definitely dumbed it way down in terms of how many stories we're following, how many stories are seeing. We saw all the same characters 4 times this episode.
Yeah.
There are whole arcs of Game of Thrones in the first 3 seasons where you see fan favorite Tyrion. You see him once
Maybe
an episode for 5 episodes.
Yes.
And then his story, when it ramps up, you start seeing him for a third of an episode. Half of the episode is his story. And then, you have the Wall episodes where it's all the Wall with Jon and the Wildlings. And you have the battle at the Bay, the Blackwater, yeah. That whole episode is only that. Like, you have episodes where they focus on one thing because it's finally that time. And with this show, we're going to we're gonna have way less characters, and we're gonna need way less out of a lot of people, so we can focus on these individual stories. And because of that, pacing is going to feel a lot better than people who have issues with pacing. And originally Game of Thrones, I think so many people didn't care about pacing because all of the stories are enthralling. When your weakest story, and this is totally my opinion, when your weakest story in the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones is Sansa and Littlefinger's like relationship, you have a killer show.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
when the
I don't know that I
weakest
would say
story-
that's the weakest one, but it's not the best.
It's not the best, and it's definitely just one that you don't totally care about, only because of the level of all the other stories happening. When in almost any other show, when in almost any other drama, it's going to be the most compelling story. In any other show, that's one of the weaker ones.
Yeah.
You can't miss. Pacing doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Because
I think
you want to see all of it.
also when you're having is with Game of Thrones, you had all these different houses that needed to be introduced. In this, it's much more, it's like we need this house, and this house.
You watched Game of Thrones, you know the big houses. Here are the ones that you're not going to know about, and the ones that are important at this moment.
And it's basically 2 families, 3 families, but they're small groups of people, less to know about.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with that.
And they're way more in power than any of the houses are in Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
Like in Game of Thrones, you have 4 or 5 houses that are all pretty strong. You got a couple at the top, but really only because of fealties. In terms of raw power, Highgarden had so much power. The Lannisters had so much power. The Starks had so much power. Everybody had so much power. The Baratheons. There were so many families.
More broken up the power.
Yeah, in this, all the families are in
consolidated.
fear of the lizards.
Yes.
The lizards have the
True,
power.
true.
And that is all it really comes down to. When 20 people are in control of the lizards,
Yeah. They control everything.
they win.
Yeah.
They're winning.
I like
And
how they were able to characterize the dragons too, so we can tell them apart much easier.
Yes,
There's
and
bigger ones,
the
smaller ones.
connections between the riders and their dragons are so well put to screen, especially when you see the behind the scenes photos of these guys just standing next to these giant tennis balls. It's nuts how well they're able to, like, especially with Matt Smith's relationship to, I can't remember its name, the ridiculous, amazing dragon with the giant neck.
Yeah, the big one.
Yeah, Damon's
Vhagar?
dragon. No, not that one. That's
Aemond's.
That's Aemon's.
Yes.
Yes. The names of this show are going to cripple me.
Yeah,
in any
no,
kind
I'm
of
just
discussion.
there with some of them, not all of them.
Yeah, but Vhagar and Aemon are that dragon's enormous, and it's cool. But its connection is very much one of, like, I'm gonna ride whoever's gangster enough to climb on top of me. If you're cool enough to do that, I got you. But the connection between Daemon and his dragon is like one of, like, there's a quote about the show. I don't know if Matt Smith said it or if it was one of the writers, but Daemon is only out for himself and his dragon. He has more fealty to his dragon than his wife, than his children, than the crown, than anything.
We'll
When it comes
get to
down
my
it-
opinion on that
Okay.
with this episode, because I've got some observations about his character changes. Well, I'll come to that, but I would agree, and I like how his dragon looks different from everyone else's.
Yes.
It's not the biggest, but it's the most fierce dragon.
Yeah.
It's the one that everyone fears the most because it's so loyal to Daemon.
Yeah.
And what a great sort of Jaime character that I think he falls into, but he's very unforgiving, and Matt Smith does a wonderful job.
I like the character. I like the idea of linking him to Jaime. Of
Yeah,
all the,
yeah,
like, if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
to link him to another Game of Thrones character, not of this show, Jaime does shout Daemon Targaryen.
Yes, but like in a little bit more of a hardline way. And that's where I get to casting on this. I think for the most part, I like the casting. The one miss that I have, and it's no slight to the man, I like him as an actor, and it's Paddy Considine as
Really?
Viserys. I just don't see him as like a feudal lord of any kind. I see him more as like a regular English dude in contemporary, times.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he played that line of the king who wants to rule with compassion but isn't allowed to so well that you need him to be weak like he was. Not physically only, like mentally, he was not ready to run that kingdom. And that's
Well, I
why
think it was more
Daemon
of
and
his
him butt so many
accent.
heads. Oh, literally just his accent.
His
You mean in
accent
terms of
really
casting?
bothers me.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess.
Every time he speaks, I feel like I know you're British, but you're making it up, bro. You're like doing an
This is a
impression.
British guy doing a British accent.
Yeah, it was like a really bad American impersonation. It's almost like getting used to Peter Dinklage's accent at first because his wasn't bad at all. It was just different because
Yeah.
it's an American doing it.
that accent.
And this is just kind of like that, but it misses some for me. So that's it's not a gripe, I would say. It just didn't. I didn't think they hit it out of the park.
For me, the only person I love the casting too, but the only person that I'm like I just don't see it all the time. And I will say I give her way more credit in this episode is was Olivia Cook for playing Alicent.
You don't like Alicent?
I like Alicent, and
Mhm.
I like Olivia Cook. I like her in everything else she's done.
Mhm.
But in the first season, she just seems so out of place at like with these other actors. Not in terms of skill or in
Mhm.
terms of like what she's capable of. In the portrayal that they're all giving, she seems like and she is in that family. You're talking about the Targaryens, so I guess to an extent, I'm answering my own question of why she is cast.
Mhm.
She's
different.
She's different from
Yeah.
everyone else.
That's
And
why I
you're
like
dealing
her.
with all the Targaryens. I do like this first episode. She was unbelievable.
Yeah.
She stole every scene she was in.
Yeah,
She
my
kills it in the first
allegiances
episode.
in the show have shifted quite a bit. So maybe that's a good point to get into. We can start going through maybe some of this first season
Okay.
and see just the big points. I guess we can go through. Episode 1 here. Obviously, just to set this up, I know I didn't say this before. Picks up 172 years before the death or before the birth of Daenerys Targaryen, and shows the events leading up to the decline of House Targaryen, which is a devastating war of secession known as the Dance of Dragons.
Yeah.
And in episode 1, both of his sons are dead. We meet King Jaehaerys for a moment, and he convenes a great council to choose his successor. And you've
Yeah.
got his daughter, Rhaenys. Yes, Rhaenys.
Yeah.
I always get her and the other chick mixed up, but Rhaenys, who's got a badass dragon in this, and his nephew, which is Paddy Considine's character
Yeah.
of Viserys. He picks Viserys because he's a male, even though he's not his true bloodline.
Yeah.
And that sort of sets the thing up. He becomes king. She is
was the queen who never was.
the queen who never was, and is sort of, for all her spite, doesn't really show it. So that sort of happens. Let's see here. There is a tournament for Viserys. Fast forward, yes.
Fast-forwarding
He's
far.
got a wife now, and
She's
he's got a
pregnant,
daughter.
She's about to have a daughter. She's about to have hopefully his first son.
His first son.
After he's had his daughter. His daughter's 14, 15 years
Yes,
old already.
yes. And does he? Let me see if it's in this one. I'm trying to see when he says who his heir is going to be. It's after the birth, right?
After the birth, or after the death of his wife and what would have been his son.
But
'Cause
does he proclaim her as his true heir before the boy dies? That's what I don't remember.
I think it's in the second. I don't know if they even talk about it in that first episode.
Mhm.
It's either the sting of the first episode, or the second episode is when he declares it that
Yeah.
she will be his true heir.
Okay.
And that's when the tensions start to rise with her and Daemon, because Daemon, until that moment, is like the official heir, both literally officially in the
Mhm.
eyes of the crown
And by blood.
and by blood, and by what the people would want.
Yeah, the people think it should be
That's-
the male, the
They
closest male
always
heir.
think it should be the closest male heir.
Mhm.
Whoever the close, regardless of if there's 5 daughters and they're all older than the next male heir.
Mhm.
They don't care at all.
Yeah, which is
And-
where this gets weird, is
The
because
family dynamic is very strange, because not only are there multiple potential male heirs, there's multiple more credible by blood
the female
female
heir,
heirs,
and that's where it
more
gets
than one.
weird.
Yeah.
Is so again, Paddy Considine's wife is pregnant. She's about having a baby. He has to decide between her or the kid because he's so he knows it's going to be a male this time.
Yeah,
He goes for the C-section, basically kills his wife.
knowing it's going to kill
Know
his
he's going
wife.
to kill his wife. Has a boy. Oh my God, it's a boy. Kid dies for a day. They called him a king for a day or
Yep.
heir for a day. And so then he proclaims his daughter Rhaenyra, who is in the same position that Rhaenys was in
Yes.
when she was skipped over, which is why it's this crazy sort of connection between her and Rhaenys and Rhaenyra.
And why they relate so well together, even though the amount of treachery that happens in her eyes, them plotting to kill her son
Mhm.
after they jumping way into the second half
Mhm.
of the season, but when they plot for Rhaenyra and oh man, I don't know his name anymore. Rhaenys' son,
Mhm.
Rhaenys and Valerion's son,
Laenor.
Laenor,
Mhm.
and they get married,
Mhm.
and then they plot to have him killed which really they just have him go away because he doesn't want to
But
be
they
part
don't
of
know
all the
that. Nobody
politics.
knows that.
She doesn't know it. The father doesn't know that. So in their eyes, Damon and Rhaenyra plotted to kill their son, and even though that happens, she still sees that the greater thing for the country, for the Seven Kingdoms, would be for Rhaenyra to win this civil war that is inevitably going to happen. So she still sides with them. Watching her relationship with that family is the most. I'm constantly like, is this when she's going to snap?
Mm-hmm.
When is she going to snap?
Yes,
because this
she
lady
has no reason to
she
have
has no
allegiance
reason to
to
have
them.
allegiance with anybody aside from what I can only say would be she still feels she has a claim.
And
to
that's
this throne.
that's would give her all the reason to not side with Rhaenyra, which is why it's
Yeah.
so confusing.
But she even more, as much as she wouldn't have to side with Rhaenyra, she really couldn't side with Alicent in the High Towers.
Okay, so episode 2, Damon. Damon actually at the end of one of the episodes calls his son heir for a day and pisses off the king.
Yeah.
So he's basically banished, and he takes up to a castle called Dragonstone.
Dragonstone first.
Dragonstone.
Yes.
And he steals a dragon's egg, and it's basically just doing it to piss the king off. Eventually, Rhaenyra goes there with her dragon and like squashes the beef so that they're not going to go to war at least. There's a crab character named the Crab Feeder who's menacing a Stepstone archipelago, and they go to battle with them. Episode 3, we skip now to Viserys has married Alicent, who we've not really talked about, who is the hand of the king's daughter and his daughter's best friend to that point. He marries her. They have a son, and they have a hunt to celebrate. Rhaenyra is now 17, and she doesn't want to marry, but they force her to marry. So they talk about getting married to Laenor Velaryon, which is the son of the sea snake, and Rhaenys, her aunt. If I miss anything or skip something, let me know. I'm just trying to get through this part quick.
You got it. I see it in my head as it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like all I know is the sting of episode 5 is her and Laenor getting married right after Kristen Cole has killed Laenor's lover, Joffrey.
Yes, we're about to
in
get
front
to
of
that.
them, and then it jumps. The next episode is when everybody ages up.
Yes,
which
so
is such a moment to do it.
Damon and Corlys go and kill the Crab Feeder.
Yes,
Damon basically like ambushes him.
Just
and does
one
this gangster.
70s the whole island.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it really
It's
is like
badass.
the most anime Dragon Ball Z. Like one guy takes out the whole army.
It's like
situation.
Jon in the Battle of the Bastards for a moment, but like even amped up.
Yeah, because Jon didn't want to do that.
No.
Damon was like, I'm about to go do this.
He's like,
and then he just goes and does it. I've never seen one of the Valyrian steel swords treated more like a lightsaber because he just is like deflecting arrows and cutting through people like they're not. I mean, like they are Play-Doh.
I want to see the blocking set up for that on a map somewhere.
Yeah.
Show me where this is happening because I don't believe in you. You just-
Choreograph this.
Yeah, it's just
like,
images and stuff thrown our way.
it was unbelievable.
So they go.
It's
kill
the most
Crab
dominant
Feeder.
one person in I think the whole series.
He's
of Game of
basically set
Thrones.
up to be like, again, Jaime Lannister
Yeah.
before he gets his hand
The
cut off.
untouchable knight.
Rhaenyra goes on a little tour to find a husband, and she comes back early. She doesn't like it. Her and Daemon sneak into King's Landing and basically get hot and heavy with one another, but he leaves her before they can consummate. And one of the Hand's spies sees it. Then his daughter finds out, and everybody's pissed off because they think that she's pregnant even. So they send Daemon away again. She is forced to wed Laenor Velaryon, who she's like kind of gives in. She didn't want to for a while, which is strange too when we get to it, that she's very resistant to being the queen for the most of this.
Yes.
But why she latches so deeply into it after her sons are born,
Mhm.
I don't get it.
You don't?
I don't understand why she wants to.
Because it's the best security for her sons all of a sudden.
I guess it makes sense. But it also puts them in the crosshairs too.
Yeah, but again, when everybody has dragons, and especially once they've divided up who's in power, even though they have Vhagar, 11 dragons versus 4, you feel pretty safe about your your security
But I
wherever
think
it is you settle
4
down.
dragons is enough to keep people from at least attacking you.
Exactly. Well, especially when one of them is Vagar.
Gigantic
That
and
takes
menacing.
is almost in mass bigger than the other 11 all put together.
One of my favorite scenes happens in this episode 5 during Laenor and Rhaenyra's betrothal celebration when Alicent walks in wearing the green dress, which I had to look up what that meant, and then they tell me
It was the
like,
Hightower's signal for war.
yeah, it's her signal, and I thought what a gangster move that
It's pretty,
was.
pretty awesome.
And that's
And a really sick send off to that actress playing Alicent and that actress playing.
She got on my
Rhaenyra.
nerves for a while, but that scene I was like,
She's
gangster
awesome.
mode.
Yeah.
That's when you talk about the scene where Laenor, who's homosexual, he has a lover, and Rhaenyra has a lover, which is her Kingsguard, Kristen.
Kristen Cole.
Kristen Cole, which is a badass. And so they're like, well, we'll get married, we'll have kids, but we can have our thing. And at one point, Kristen Cole's lover, I guess, or not Kristen Cole's, Laenor's lover approaches Kristen Cole and kind of like basically says, I see you.
Yeah,
and Cole doesn't like it.
Yeah, he doesn't think it's funny what the two of them are about to embark on, knowing that she knows that Laenor's with Joffrey, and they're totally okay with the situation at hand because she has Kristen in her eyes. And then he squashes any hopes of what would have been a happy betrothal, happy marriage, where everybody can still have a good time, behind the scenes.
Turned his head into Oberyn Martell real quick.
Dude, I mean,
I wasn't ready for that.
No one was ready. That was the first big, like, holy shit moment of that show. I mean, sure, the C-section happens first episode.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. It's gnarly. The crab eater's crazy gnarly. We kind of see those things, right in the front of our field of view.
Yeah.
That moment, you're like, what the is going on? And at the same time, it's the end of half of these characters run on the show. Like the actresses and actors, like everyone's about to get aged up. Certain people will stay. Certain ones are disappearing. But that scene is 3 minutes.
I like how they shot it too.
Yeah, it's really like the finale of a season of
the show
is what it feels like.
True.
Because when the next episode starts, you really jumpstart into 10 years later. They kick it off without a beat, and I think the best shot they do of any Game of Thrones a lot of times recasts a character. We knew going in that there was going to be a recast in this show. The recasting of Rhaenyra to start the first episode with this new actress as a one-take cold open of her giving birth and taking her newborn baby to the queen
badass
is the best way you could like warm us up to, oh, not only is this chick going to be a badass, she can hang as an actress with all of these people after being absent for 5 episodes.
To that point in the show, I was pulling for her and I didn't like Alicent. I was definitely on Team Rhaenyra at that point.
I'm sensing a change in
it
that
shifts
alliance.
at point, yes. Okay, 10 years later, Rhaenyra has 3 sons and a newborn. All of them have no platinum hair. So they all have dark brown hair, and this is where we get into the troubles.
Yes. Very strong children.
Laenor, Viserys, and Alicent, they have 2 sons. I thought they had a daughter too, but that turns out to be Aemon's wife later on. I just missed that because I'm stupid.
Say that again, who?
Not Aemon, Aegon.
Okay.
Aegon's wife, the blonde.
Okay. The brother and sister of Viserys' new kids with Alicent.
Yes.
Them? Okay.
Yes. Okay. Oh, you confused me for 2 seconds because I'm stupid.
It's all these names, dude.
They're all so
they are very
similar.
difficult. It's difficult.
They're so similar.
We're doing this with no homework.
It's
We are raw dogging.
I did this last night at 12 o'clock.
We are raw dogging this. This is a list of the actors and their characters' names, and then the run through of season 1. We are raw dogging this on. I didn't know I was doing this till yesterday.
That's cool. I didn't realize the
we're
episode was coming out until yesterday. I forgot.
Yeah, I forgot too. You said that, and I was like, "Oh, dude, how's the Dragons tonight?"
I did it with the boys, and I was out for 2 days before I realized it. So, but I was up. I watched it at 1 o'clock last night. Was finally when I sat
Aegon and his sister, who are betrothed to each other as Viserys' children, to be knowing that he's going to be the next king because of Rhaenyra's now illegitimate word I can't think of, claim to the throne. They are having children. There is there's a sibling that is in the show that we haven't seen yet of Aegon and Aemon and the sister,
Mhm.
who are all the three main siblings of Alicent and Viserys.
Mhm.
There's a fourth one,
But don't.
apparently.
But so
like a Daemor, or is what is his name or something. But we haven't seen that.
Well, so
that
in,
sibling.
in this episode, we see Aegon is the king already, and I'm
Yes.
jumping ahead just for a second. And he has his son and his daughter, right?
Yes,
And there's the blonde woman. That's his wife, right?
his sister and his wife.
That's his sister
Yes,
and wife.
and wife. This is the Targaryens.
I-
This is what they do.
Jeez.
You
I didn't
know
think they
that?
were going to get that close.
They did that in the first season. They're already together and have children in the first season. At the end of the first season.
Jeez.
Yeah.
See, that's why I thought he was the sister, and then I'm like, wait, they're having kids. And I know they're Targaryen, but I didn't think they were going to go that close. Like I thought, like Daemon and
Daemon
Rhaenyra,
was
that's close
the
enough.
craziest it would get.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah,
come on.
but no, he was with his sister or his cousin.
Yeah. I saw
Viserys.
that. I saw that.
Who the one that gets the C-section. I can't remember exactly who, and I don't think it's his sister, but I think it is his cousin. And it's like his first cousin, and his parents were brother and sister. Very often, it's either brother and sister, or like brother or sister and cousin. Like it's always very close family line. I do like how much more in Game of Thrones, all three dragons are the same dragon in different colors.
Yeah, they're very difficult to tell apart.
It's hard to, especially when they all get huge,
Mm-hmm.
because it's when they're the
Far
size
away.
of a person and smaller. It's like, oh, that one's yellow, that
Mhm.
one's green, that one's red.
But when they're big, they get darker or they get
And
more texture.
They're all just brown.
Mhm.
and Drogon was a little bigger,
Mm-hmm.
and it got
And they kind of did that in the end, I think, so we could tell them apart.
yeah,
Because
for
we're,
sure.
stupid.
And this time, I really do love. I think they had to do that in Game of Thrones because of budget. It's way easier to just have the same model. For
Well, I think
for
when they
filming.
started off too, they're like, "Oh, 3 dragons," and they just made them all look the same.
Yeah.
and you kind of got stuck with that. And this,
Yeah.
they're like, we need to make them different because that would be too difficult to tell them apart.
Yes, especially with 15 of them that are like definitely happening right away. Not to
Mhm.
mention however many will show up.
Because he's got a whole like roost of eggs apparently.
That
he's
and
dealing
there's
with.
like the dragon caves where certain dragons go when their masters died. Like the king before Viserys' father,
Mhm.
his dragon, like Viramax or Velatrax. It's some crazy
Vermitrix.
Vermitrix. It's some gangster
something like
name
that,
like that. That's the one that Daemon goes and finds in the finale of season 1 in that cave
Mhm.
that looks all twisted and fucked up. It's like 120 years old. It's
Mhm.
It's like the next biggest to
Mhm.
Vhagar and Daemon's dragon.
Mhm.
Because I think Daemon's dragon is technically the next biggest one before Vhagar.
It's not as like girthy as the others. It's like real long and lean.
Yeah,
but
just,
it's like really gnarly. And
yeah,
the other one, the scene at the end of season 1 where it's at Storm's End and you see the lightning flash and it like leer its head up above the castle wall.
Yes.
That is scary as
Vhagar, yeah.
That was terrifying. I'm sorry. If I see that, I'm having a heart attack and I'm dying right
Oh
now.
yeah, I'm not. I don't know if I could be. I would have to be Aemon to be okay with it.
Oh,
you have to be
absolutely.
the guy in control. Otherwise, if I'm Aemon's best friend and I've pet that dragon,
I'm
I'm not happy.
I'm
I'm
terrified.
not comfortable.
No.
I've had friends' dogs who I've played with who will growl when I have like a stick, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's scary.
No.
That's a skyscraper who's maybe mad at you.
They can spit fing fire at your face.
It's coiled around the castle like it's body pillow.
Yeah.
Like it gets up. It's like head
Sleeping in the
rises-
Colosseum.
Yeah, it rises its head over the city and elongates, and it's like as long as the edge of the city.
It's as big as the castle.
Yeah,
basically.
it's the big. That dragon is absurd.
It's ridiculous. And then you see the skull in the castle. That one's supposed to be the big bad one from
The
before.
Balerion the Black Dread.
Yeah,
the
that's
biggest one ever.
The one that like melted Harrenhal.
Yes, just burned
I
it.
want to see that.
I wanna see
so
it.
bad.
Well, they say they're never gonna make that,
Yeah,
but I feel like they gotta make that.
they have to do it.
They
Dream
gotta make
sequence
that.
me.
They got even if it's like a special, not a show. It's
Just
like a 2-hour special.
One shot
Yeah.
of this gnarly dragon melting the cat. Just 3 seconds, and I'll be okay. I can die at that point. All right,
There's a lot of things I think they said they weren't going to make that they're going to end up making because people want it so bad,
because they know what's up.
because they know it's up.
All
We'll
right,
see.
all right. Okay, episode 7, Driftmark. I've skipped some here.
It's
Damon's
okay.
wife ends up getting killed. She commits suicide when one of her children dies. Anyway, they go to her funeral. Rhaenyra and Daemon reunite and are physical. Prince Aemon claims Vhagar as his dragon, which is the Banff moment for him, which causes an altercation with because Vagar was the dragon of Damon's wife.
Damon's wife, and her daughters. One of her daughters was supposed to be the next.
Inherited.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she dies. She tells Vagar, Dracarys me, and she just stands in front of it. And it basically looks at her and kind of smiles and goes, "Okay,
Sorry.
this is gonna be fun."
Yeah.
Blows fire, kills or whatever. So Aemon sees this as his point because he doesn't have a dragon, and they've picked on him quite a bit to this point.
Because there are no dragons available for him either at that time.
Yes, he's going to either wait for an egg or find one out in the wild and claim
Yeah.
it. So he does, and he goes and claims it and starts a fight with the 2 daughters and Rhaenyra's 2 sons. He basically whoops their butts, 1v4. At one point, one of the sons pulls a dagger out, and Lucerys, the younger son, and cuts him in the eye. You knew that name quick.
Yeah.
The other one's Jacaerys.
Well, or Jace. It's like Jacaerys or something. Yeah, they call him Jace.
Yeah. They looked a lot alike too. Again, the casting in this is great. So they
Jace
take his eye out.
Valerion.
This is my favorite scene in the whole first season, and is in this episode when they go to confront the 2 families are bickering because he literally his eye is gone. He's getting stitched up, looking gnarly, and it's because he called him a bastard because he's not really the.
And everybody's arguing, everyone's yelling, and he speaks up. He says, "It's okay. I traded an eye for a dragon." It's not quite that, but it's very close to that kind of statement, and it's such
true.
a gangster statement.
But then the king speaks up and basically says, "Anybody who says this out loud again, I'll have your head."
Yeah.
And his wife is basically like, "Bro, that's literally the king's son. I know that's the heir to be the king.
Yeah.
But your actual son just lost an eye."
Yeah.
And she loses it. And at this point, Rhaenyra has kind of pissed me off. This is where I switch my allegiance because she doesn't seem to really want that. You said it's a good thing for protection. I get that. But she's being really smug here, and it pissed me off. So when Alicent went for the dagger to knife her up, that's when I've kind of switched my allegiance. Did that affect you at all in your position?
I mean, at that point, the thing I love about stories like this is that you put something on paper, like now she pulls out a knife. Is she a badass or is she evil? Pick a side. At that time, after the 15 years of turmoil and all of the things, there's no longer a right or wrong.
Mhm.
Everything is so murky.
Oh, yeah, for
that
sure.
You're kind of going scene to scene on who you think is correct. And it's no longer, I'm on this person's side because they're the most correct. It's more, let's see who can be the most correct in this fight.
Yeah.
Because it's like to put it to something as easy as like relationships. If you're in a relationship and you have fights, like it's not about, you're not going to 5 years after one fight, you're not going to be like, well, remember when I won that fight? It's like, now it's like, okay, we're in a new thing. We're having a new disagreement. Let's figure out who is on the right side of this disagreement. They're so far engaged in this turmoil and this bickering of this family and the power that it holds that anytime a moment like that happens, it's cooler heads prevail. Whoever makes the right decisions is usually who is suffering the least after basically everything after her and Laenor get married. Ever since then, ever since Criston Cole kills Joffrey, from that moment on, it's really just a battle of who is the most right in this situation. Who's the most right at this family dinner?
Yeah.
Because every dinner has come with some ridiculous
it's
situation.
very bickering of some kind. And I think that maybe that's why I felt so attracted to their side at that point, is because at least I felt like her motivations were a little more altruistic. And then it wasn't so much like just to save her own hide all the time.
Yes.
Like I get that she was a mother who's hurt, and Rhaenyra's children got beat up. They didn't lose an eye. So it was a little bit different. But that's when I had that sort of a visceral reaction. I was like, screw this girl. Because at that point, I was definitely a fan.
Yeah.
That's episode 7. That ends. We have another time jump at this point.
Yes.
6 more years. Corlys is hurt fighting in the Stepstones. His brother petitions the king to name him the heir. He turns
I
him
believe
down.
that's the last big time jump also.
Yes,
Like
yes.
no longer from here, from like episode 8 on to even the first episode of season 2 is not like a ridiculous amount of time.
Yeah, yes. This is the only one that you really have to be mindful of. But he tries to be proclaimed heir. Basically, they say no, and Daemon actually cuts his head off when he's talking to the king.
He cuts like half of his head off.
He cuts
It
his
is the most
face off.
gnarly, like decapitation
Comes out of
put to
nowhere
screen.
too. Comes out of
And
nowhere.
when they later are like doing the like when you get your organs like mummies, what is they embalming?
yeah.
When they're embalming the body, they have the head like next to the body where
Oh,
it's
yeah.
supposed to
It's
be,
just
and there's
like-
just a line through it. It's really like I was like, if you told me they were going to do that, I'd be like, that's stupid. Why would they? And they make it look right? I'm like, that was such a
It did
clean
look
cut,
good,
and
yeah,
it looks weirdly satisfying in terms of like when you see like somebody laying in a coffin. I was like, man, that motherfucker could probably have like an open face coffin and it not be a big deal.
Yeah.
Like that sword, those Valyrian steel swords work.
just some stitches right
yeah,
here.
like legit. It looks very.
He had a sharp
It was very
sword.
trippy looking, but it was cool.
This is the one where Viserys is near death at this point, and on his deathbed, basically to his wife, he mutters the story about the prince who was promised, which we see in Game of Thrones.
And she thinks that
She thinks
he's talking to her when in reality he thinks he's talking to Rhaenyra.
Yeah, but so she thinks that what he's asking is for on his deathbed, I really want my son to be king,
Yeah.
and not Rhaenyra. So she actually thinks it's true. She's not coming from this sort of like Cersei place of I just want my family to continue.
Yeah.
So basically, what goes on from here is that her father, who's the hand of the king, which I really
Otto
like him,
Hightower.
and
He's the most despicably likable person in the whole show.
Well, I was gonna
Every
say-
time he speaks, I'm like, I hate you and your intentions, but damn it, you're good at making my like the logic side of my brain be on your side. 'Cause
Well, it's
I'm
like upping
he makes
it
all the
from-
right decisions or knows what the right decisions are, and he has to
playing the
somehow
game.
manipulate all of these lunatics.
Well, he seemed to be the only person playing the game while everyone, because it's been a time of like our house locked this down.
Him and Laris Strong, the
Yes.
clubfoot guy.
Yes, which is too close to Varys, tripping me out. But they're kind
Yeah.
of like the little finger, and I thought like way to cast great characters that don't make you think like, oh, they're just trying to redo them.
Yeah.
They're their own self.
They really are their own, and they have their own little quirks and weirdness. Otto's definitely the Tywin of this show,
Mhm.
and Laris is definitely the Littlefinger, kind of the
Varys.
Varys, but really
With
the
his
Littlefinger.
bees.
Yeah,
Yes.
his bees and his fetishes. The
that
weirdest.
caught me off guard. I was like,
I
what is
was like, what am I looking at? What is going on here?
Allison is just all game.
Allison does not. She does what
She stands on business.
Yeah, she does whatever she needs to do.
But it turns out that her father and the Lannister head, which I really like him as an actor,
Yeah,
he plays
he's
a
great.
twin in this,
Yeah.
have been really already kind of like consorting to install her son as the king anyway upon
Yeah.
his death, which she gets kind of pissed off. But in the end, she's like, okay. So they basically,
An ally's an ally.
they imprison Rhaenyra's.
Rhaenys.
They
Yeah.
imprison her and basically say, hey, we're just telling you, we're not trying to be mean, but we can't have you like going and telling Rhaenyra what's happening. And they install her son as king. He becomes king. They swear him in. At some point, Rhaenys is let out of the dungeon or wherever she's locked up at, and she gets on her dragon, and that's how the season ends.
And just opens the floor.
Comes through and just like blows this. It's almost like the scepter, whatever.
That scene is so sick, and the only reason it's not the most memorable scene from the first season is because of the final scene of the first season.
Mhm.
That's the only reason, because
Mhm.
that is a scene that in Game of Thrones would be the big episode, the big moment of the season, because it's such a gangster
Mhm.
moment.
So
I
let's
think-
get to it then.
Yeah.
So what happened? Well, but they install her son as king. Aegon is now king. They have to go through this whole episode of locating him because he's like off drunk somewhere. But at his coronation, she comes through with her dragon and has a chance to kill the whole royal family.
Everybody.
And doesn't, because I think she has a little bit of honor in her. I really like her
Yeah,
character a
I
lot.
do too. She's so far the most redeeming character in the
Mhm.
show,
Mhm.
and I have a really bad idea that they're going to end up making everyone like her to make her the evil character at the end.
Oh,
That's
I
my
could see it.
that's my prediction.
Because she's been the one that's been passed over and passed over and passed
Yeah.
over.
She has
could turn
the
into
quiet
a Cersei.
villain arc underneath that
She
is
could
like
turn into Cersei quick.
bubbling.
Yeah. So we get to the last episode where the Queen Rhaenyra, responding to this, because now Rhaenys has flown to where they are on her dragon and told them what's up. And she sends her two sons, one to go to Winterfell to make sure that they're going to still bend the knee. And then she sends her other son to Storm's End to make sure that they're going to bend the knee. And when the youngest son shows up to Storm's End, Aemon is already there and has offered
is
his hand
Vhagar.
as his marriage, his hand
Yes.
in marriage for their allied.
A very brief moment from that episode is the leader of Storm's End of House Baratheon. I don't know the character's name. Gives an everybody from the North so far for their brief moments in the show are killing.
Mm-hmm.
That they're doing the Game of Thrones thing of having one scene and absolutely destroying it.
Yeah, and what you don't know, maybe they're going to recast these characters if they show up later on
like
to
they
play
did in Game of
bigger
Thrones.
Yeah.
Oh no. See, I'm going to do that thing where I forget a character from Game of Thrones. The guy with one eye that the Hound cuts in half.
Beric Dondarrion.
Beric Dondarrion. He is a different character
3 times.
like 3 different times throughout the show.
The Mountain is casted 3 different times.
3 different times.
Dario Naharis is
Dario
recast,
Naharis.
and they're actually both in Rebel Moon together.
Yeah, it was really funny. The first guy is is it Nicholas Hoult? Is that him?
No. But
It's
he
not
looks kind of looks
What's
similar.
that guy's name? He's the bad guy in the first Deadpool movie. I
Yeah,
can't remember his name.
He's Quicksilver, and I don't know his name.
Out of all of the characters they recast, that is the most like that's not even sort of the same guy.
No.
The most different looking.
They went and
guy.
got the prettiest dude they can find.
Yeah, I was like, what's happening here?
So they show up at Storm's End.
Sorry.
No, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
I'm just
No,
trying to keep it moving because we haven't got to the good stuff yet. And so he's basically there all smug, and he's my favorite character. Aemon's my favorite character in the
coolest
show.
one.
And he takes his eye patch off, and he's like, you know what I want? I want your eye right now.
Yeah.
And in front of the king or this
The Lord of Storm's
Lord
End.
of Storm's End, he's like throws his dagger on the ground to him. And I'll give Lucerys heads up. He clenches his sword. He's doesn't want to fight, but he will.
Yeah.
And what you have to understand is his dragon's very young. He's got a very little,
very
tiny dragon.
like a little bigger than a horse.
Yeah, I mean, about as big
it's
as
like
you
riding
can,
a Pegasus.
it's the smallest dragon that you see on the show. It's still big enough to F people up in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But against the biggest dragon, and what you have to understand is that Aemon doesn't have complete control of his dragon.
Yeah.
He's
None of them do. That's the whole idea.
And that's why I like.
Yeah.
Seems as though Daemon
they both
has his
say obey me, and both dragons
disobey them.
don't.
Yes, which is great. It's
Because in the end, the dragons are the power. The dragons are the one who are like having the fights, who are dictating what's about to happen.
So he leaves. Storm's End guys like, leave now. He'll stay. Give him a heads up. Like, take him out of here. Let him go. He gets on his dragon right away, flies away. But it's storming. It's flipping Storm's End. And so he went straight to Vhagar and got on him. And it's this cool scene. Like, it's kind of scary. Figure out where he's going to be. And if there's scenes where you'll see him just hovering above the shadow and it'll disappear.
And then the wings are out, and you just see that whole dragon is engulfed by the shadow of the other dragon.
And then
so
all of a
sick.
sudden, in one mouthful, bites the other dragon in half and kills the youngest son of her, who's not the heir to the throne, but is the second heir of the throne. And he's dead. And that's the end of season 1. You see, I think they show her finding out, maybe.
Yeah, they show like a slow motion walk up of Daemon walking up to her while she looks in the fire.
Oh, at the table.
And then she turns around and she's looking into the camera and she is like
pissed.
It's not even pissed. It's like disgusted, like a disgust face.
Because she knew she shouldn't have sent him.
Yeah.
She knew she shouldn't have sent him.
She was like, she didn't want to do it in the moment. He didn't want to, and she could see it, but she knew that's what they had to do. And Daemon knew that's what they had to do.
So you're welcome for that really poorly timed out
a recap of season 1.
You're like, wait, we're like,
we could have definitely,
but that's okay.
touched on more. But I think we get the important bits.
It's the gist because trust me, if you want a more in depth, there's other places on the internet that are going to do a better job than me, and it's my job to now do a good job for season 2, which is where we'll jump straight to season 2. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about season 1? Consistency. The dragons as a plot device help quicken the story. That's 2. Yeah, I think we covered all that good stuff. All right. Season 2, episode 1. A son for a son. So picking up, obviously, with the death of her son.
I purposely did no looking into what that meant. I didn't know what blood and cheese was going into this episode.
What do you mean?
So blood and cheese is like the red wedding equivalent of House of the Dragon. Cheese is the guy, the rat catcher.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one who, at the end of episode 1 of season 2, kills Aegon's firstborn son.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the incident known as Blood and Cheese, where they sent in the rat catcher to kill the son of the king.
Which was an interesting choice for the ending of this episode.
And the all of a suddenness of how it happens, knowing what their mission is, the outcome is so out of nowhere in such a like plot twist moment.
I love how they end the episode.
I
on
love
that.
how they end the episode of her going into her mother. The daughter's the quirkiest. She's like the Luna Lovegood.
She
of this
does seem
show.
to be a little like slow.
Well, it's not that she's slow; it's that she
Aloof.
knows things.
She's aloof though.
Yeah,
too.
she's like psychic. She knows. She really does know that things are coming. She does it a lot in the first and
Huh.
second season.
Because she does say something about I'm scared of the rats.
Yeah, she predicts this. She's sewing her son's funeral outfit in that scene,
I didn't know that.
and she doesn't know that.
She doesn't even.
She
know
doesn't
it.
know that's what it is.
How did you know this?
I watched it.
Did they say that?
That someone has said that. It's like online already.
Oh, we'll see. I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah, there's
He
certain
cheated.
things. It was on Twitter, but I went back and I looked and I was like, that. I mean, I'm not saying that is what it is, but if that's not what it is, that's crazy. But she does that in the first season a lot. She predicts a lot of things. She predicts that Aemon is going to get his eye cut out and that it will have a blue sapphire. She predicts a lot of things.
When did I miss that?
They're very weird. It's not like she says he's going to get his eye cut out. She's like, it's like poetic. She says these like poetic like soliloquies that end up coming to fruition in different ways.
I like that. That's so Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and she's so weird and quirky. And the whole idea of her going in to her mother's chambers while her mother is sleeping with the Kristen Cole,
Yeah.
and she just doesn't even care. That's
No.
not what she's like.
She
That's
just
not.
watched her kid get murdered.
Yeah,
And they want his head too.
Yeah,
They said take his head.
and you hear it. They're
Yeah.
like ripping off the head off of this kid's body.
Now, what I would have done differently, it's to cliffhanger it for episode 2, is I wouldn't have let them know if it was the son or the daughter. I would have left it ambiguous. Because that's what I thought was when they look in the eyes at the end. I thought that the rat catcher knew whether it was the son or the kid. And I didn't. I think
He just knew that she wasn't lying,
yes.
which is a really cool character trait for that guy to be able to pick up on. I really like that one. That's probably
But I thought
we're
that-
probably going to see him one more time.
Oh, for
I
sure.
don't feel like that guy's going to make it much longer.
No,
But
no,
for
no.
one
He's a
episode and for
scapegoat.
a couple of scenes, it is so sick. No, I don't mean he's going to escape. I mean,
No, he's going to
Damon
be a
will kill him.
scapegoat. He's going to be
Yeah,
murdered.
he's going to be the guy they whack. Yeah, and,
Yeah.
but for
But I felt like I think it would have been better in line with his character if he would have like the look from her is that is the daughter and I have my son and I want you to think otherwise. And the look in his eyes, he didn't want to kill those kids.
yeah,
Up to that point, he tries to get out of it. If you like, okay, this is his way of protecting the heir, and I think that might have been a more interesting way to go. But I didn't write the book, so I don't know.
yeah. I don't know if it's that or if they're just dumb and they found themselves in a position where they couldn't go kill Aegon.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like they should know who they're there to kill.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in that scenario, they're just like, well, we have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
This might as well be the same. Because the problem is Cheese doesn't care. The big guy hates the Hightowers.
Mhm.
He just hates the family. So
Mhm.
he's like, F it, we're going to kill this son instead.
Because they're sent there to kill the king, right?
They're sitting there to kill Aegon, the one with the one eye.
Or Aemon.
Aemon.
Yeah.
God, it's the worst. I
Yeah.
hate not knowing. But
There's
they're
one
sitting there
letter
to kill
difference.
him.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Preferably, I guess, in his sleep is what they're thinking. Because I don't think that the
The
two of them can
king's
handle him.
son is what they say.
Yes.
And so they interpret it as Aemon, the king's youngest son, or
Yeah.
king's son, and instead kill the king.
It is really funny because Damon literally says, it's the guy with one eye walking around. It can't be hard to miss.
Yeah.
And they still, if they messed it up, it's kind of unclear, at least to me, if they know what they did or not.
Yeah.
If they purposely killed that son because of the scenario that was unfolding in front of them,
Mhm.
or if they were just like, there he is. There's the guy we're trying to kill. Like if they just didn't know who they were there to kill.
I think the way that I sort of gleaned it is that they got there, they knew that it wasn't the right one, but it was something. It was better than nothing.
Yes.
And they didn't want to turn back to deal with consequences without having an action.
I think a lot of people are comparing, before this episode came out, people compare Blood and Cheese to like a Red Wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a big, crazy, what the moment.
Mhm.
But I think that something they could have done was instead of like making us dislike that little kid
Mm-hmm.
for the one scene he's in where he's like at the council meeting,
Yes.
endear us to him a little bit.
Yes.
Make us like him for 2 or 3 scenes, then rip his head off.
Yes.
And absolutely just destroy us as an audience.
Yes.
You know, make it more of like, now I really don't know who I'm rooting for. I don't know who is Damon evil, who's evil, who do I not like, who do
Here's
I like.
how you fix it. Because there's a scene where Aegon has to talk about the sheep, giving the guy back the sheep.
Yeah.
And I wrote a note down like, I can't tell if Aegon's just he's not evil. I don't see him as evil.
He's not evil. He's ignorant.
He's an asshole, or he just likes doing the opposite of what people tell him to do.
That too.
Which is, but now that you say ignorant, I could get that too. He seems to want to be liked.
He likes being liked.
He wants
His
to be
friends
liked.
on the throne with him are just drinking and partying and saying he's awesome,
Magnanimous.
and he says, "I don't like that word. Like,
What does
just
it
like,
mean?
What does it mean? Like, I want just say I'm awesome. Like,
Yeah.
like
So
he just wants
I can
people to
see,
like him.
He's a
and,
little aloof.
And when he has this guy, Otto Hightower literally says, "If you tell one, you tell them all." He's like, "We won't let them tell.
They
about
won't
this
tell
one.
him.
They won't tell him.
They won't know.
We'll just let him." Say nothing. And then he's like, that's not gonna work. He's like, I just want to give this guy a sheep. Come on, let me give him a sheep. He just wants people. I think you're right. I think overall he wants people to like him, but we're about to see the turn because he loved his son. The one scene you get of him and his son, he's like, he's so excited to bring his kid to this meeting.
Yeah, he's like, he's gonna take him.
Yeah.
But here's what you do: is you have that scene, and you have his son. He's like, "What do you think we should do, son?"
Yeah.
And lets the son pick. Hey, we should give it back his sheep.
Yeah.
And then you have him say, okay, well, we want to give you back his sheep. And then you have the conversation. You can still have the conversation with, no, we can't give it back.
Yeah.
But he can like say something cute to his son, like, sorry, son. Like, you
Let
know.
it be. He could rise up like a Joffrey moment and say, let it be known that no one else's sheep will be returned, but because my son said this man could have his, he can have his. And it's kind of a way for Otto to get both sides of this. Where
Yes.
the
And then you
king
get a
wins
moment.
in that moment. You get a moment of endearment to the king and his very young son.
Yep.
And Otto being able to kind of be the good guy for a moment. Of
He
being
still
like,
gets to instill his knowledge on the king.
and still say, well, okay, this can work this one time, but everyone here needs to know. It's not about you and me knowing, or even this shepherd knowing. It's about everyone knowing that this can't happen again.
And it won't happen
And
again.
it won't happen again.
It's
And
the
so
son.
everyone wins that moment, and all of us love this kid all of a sudden for a moment.
Mhm.
And we love the king all of a sudden for a moment.
Mhm.
We're all like endeared to this guy. We should write this show.
We should. There was another thing I noticed. Damon seems to be softening.
And then still cut the kid's head off. That needs to be made clear.
Yes.
Sorry.
He still dies.
Yeah.
The child dies. You can kill them both for all I care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Anyway.
Damon seems to be softening in this episode because there's chances where he's like pushing for him and Rhaenys to get back on their dragons and fly and go kill people. And up to this point, he didn't really listen to anybody. Like you said, it's about him and his dragon. But now I feel like the game has begun for him. He truly cares about Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
And he truly cares about his children.
And her children.
And her children to an extent, but not as much as his own children.
Definitely not as much.
And so I think now he is a little bit of Jaime Lannister. He's changing.
Yeah.
And will we see him have
We're
to
20 years into his story at this point.
Yes. Does he have to change again? Is there a point where he's going to have to get to where he's like angry and go off and do something crazy? And are they setting him up for that? I don't know if you noticed that or not.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely. So I know sort of what happens to him
Mhm.
in the book,
Okay.
and his is one of the more ambiguous, like, send-offs in the book in terms of like what potentially could happen to him, because a lot of the characters in the House of the Dragon, unless it's very certain, like, the Laenar Valerian's brother, or the one that gets his head cut off, he gets his head cut off. It's written in the history. Like, half the characters don't have like a distinct, definite, here's what happened to them.
It's
So
very ambiguous.
It's very ambiguous, and this show will be able to take a lot of liberties with that in a way Game of Thrones really couldn't, without just straight up changing the narrative, which they do.
Yeah.
But because of that, this show has a lot more mystery to it and mystique to it, and
I've
what
noticed.
could happen.
Mhm.
What could happen to Daemon? Like, what happens I'm not gonna say what happened. I don't want to spoil it to you, and I don't want to like anyone who would be paying attention. The direction his character goes is very in line with what we've seen already. And I don't know how they're going to change the story or change the motivations he has to get to that point. They still can. I mean, you could tell me that he's going to turn into Mr. Rogers, and I think Matt Smith could make it work.
Yeah.
Matt Smith is undeniable. He's to me, he's the most powerful screen presence this show has so far.
Oh, for sure.
Aside from maybe this kid playing Aemon. Aemon is unbelievable.
I had to go back and look at what he'd played in, and I've already forgotten what it is.
Yeah, I had never seen him in anything.
He's done something small, and I don't have my phone.
The kid who plays Aegon, the king, he's in Dunkirk. He's in a few big movies from the last 5 or 10 years.
I've seen him before too.
Yeah, but even him, it's like these guys, this will be the thing that everyone's like, oh, that's what they're from now,
Mhm.
going forward.
Yeah, yeah.
Except the nerds like us who are like, well, he's also in Dunkirk, just so you know. For that
and same thing
four
with
scenes, he's in for 19 minutes and 11 seconds.
same
that.
thing with Rhaenyra too. I've seen her in something, but I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, she's in. It's not The Crown. She's in another like political drama. I think I saw on her IMDb that, and I think she's also in like a romantic comedy as a best friend character. This is like a year ago that I looked all that up though.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
yeah,
I love her. I
can't
want
picture
her in more things now.
Yeah, I
I'm
like her a
getting,
lot.
The thing I'm getting from her the most in this show is, oh, you're awesome, but you're getting overshadowed by other things. You need to go do a thing on your own where you're the only big thing happening.
She definitely
is
holds
leading
the character.
She's
up.
a leading character potential for
I
sure.
still view her as a leading character. There's just so many characters in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and even in this show, you have like at any given moment, you have like 5 or 6 leading characters who could all be on screen together.
Mm-hmm.
Between Alicent, Otto Hightower, even Kristen Cole,
Mm-hmm.
Aegon, and Aemon, all of them are like leading the scene characters.
Oh,
They
yeah.
could all steal whatever scene they're in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, it's not like Game of Thrones where every time the Hound's on screen, he owns. He's the leader of what's going on.
Yeah.
Or every time Peter Dinklage is on screen, he's owning. Or Bronn. Like these guys they take whatever any big giant name is on screen with them, they can command a presence.
Mhm.
In this show, everyone's capable of it at every given moment.
Mm-hmm. I don't feel like there's really a ton of star power actor wise. Again, there's Patty Considine, Rhys Ifans, who plays Otto Hightower.
Yeah.
Those are really the two big ones. And
Matt Smith.
well, yeah, but obviously Matt Smith. We talked about him. Matt Smith is the biggest,
Probably the biggest star.
the
in
biggest
this show.
presence in there, the biggest, most known face in the show.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of very small time actors in
Yeah.
there too that people just never seen.
I'm really glad that Rhys Ifan, however you say it, Rice Ifan. I don't know if it was because of House of the Dragon or if it just happenstantially happened at the same time. He's like blown back up
Mhm.
in Hollywood and been in like 15 things in the last 2 years.
Mhm.
He was in the Naiad movie about Diana Naiad. He
I
played
don't know
her.
what that is.
Diana Naiad was a brief intermission. Diana Naiad was a swimmer. She was the first female and only swimmer to swim from Cuba to the Florida Keys. It's like an absurd swim.
She does know boats exist.
Yes. It was a solo. So she did like the swim that's in Europe that people do all the time. She did that like
The English Channel.
The English Channel. She did that like it's nothing to her.
Yeah. for
This
breakfast.
swim, no man, no woman, no one's ever done it unassisted, and she did it when she was 58 years old, like an absolute G, or like 60 or something.
Jeez.
Yeah, like an absolute gangster. She did it when she was like 25 and
That's
couldn't
all-
do it, and then did it like in the early 2000s. She was like she had been a sports journalist and obviously a giant swimmer.
Mhm.
Long story. I'm not getting into that movie. I
No,
love
you're
it too
good.
much. I've seen it 11 times. It's a great movie. It came out last year. All the Oscar nominations.
And what's it called?
Naiad.
Naiad.
Fantastic movie. Anyway, Rice.
I'll play the
Rhys-
trailer on screen.
Yeah, Rhys Ifans is in it, and he's steals every scene he's in. He's the
Mhm.
best part of every scene he's in, and he only didn't get an Oscar nomination, I think, because the supporting actor list was so stacked last year.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, he's right there with Jodie Foster and Annette Bening got best lead actor or lead actress, best supporting actress nominations for that movie,
Mhm.
and he hangs with them the whole time.
Jeez.
and
He's
then-
also in Unknown,
He's also an unknown.
and he plays Edward DeVries, very similar character in terms of his portrayal, but he can flip and nail it, man.
He just everything I've seen him in, he's the guy
Mhm.
that is owning whatever scene. Isn't he also in he's the lizard in the Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield? I thought that was him.
Yeah, he used to do rom-coms back in the day. That's how he got to start. Doing English rom-coms, yeah.
God, that's so funny. I gotta watch those.
What else? Is there anything else that happens
Sorry.
in episode 1 that we need to talk about?
Rhaenyra steals every scene she's in, and she has one line. in the
Oh,
whole
she didn't have
episode.
it. She has no speaking lines almost.
She has one line at the end. I want Aemon Targaryen.
Yeah.
That is some.
Here's I'll give a negative.
blooded
I
shit.
give a negative. When she's getting off her dragon to see.
Too easy. She floats
It's
off of it.
it's the worst CGI in the
they've had
show.
whole show.
It's the worst. She
So
just like
I also-
slides down.
I don't
like,
think anyone
"What the
didn't
fuck
see
is
it.
this?"
She like is one cartwheel away from it
Yeah.
being like a
She should have just did a cartwheel.
yeah,
of,
like a
"I'm
Power
Tiny
Ranger.
Tim."
Yeah, it was like a Power Ranger looking moment. Like she just like
Summer no
she like
slides
literally
down
slide
his
down
tail.
the tail. I was gonna say the same thing. That's literally what it looks like. It's like she just flies off of the wing. It's
Or
but-
she does it and then trips and falls at the end. That would
yeah,
be better.
but aside from that, the grief that she's showing when Jace comes back and he's trying to be the big bad
and he's
son,
quivering.
and he's like,
His voice
the veil
shakes.
says that they will give us 2,000 men as long as you bring her a dragon to protect the veil,
Mhm.
and the Starks will offer 2,000 graybeards. And then she just walks over, and it's the dude. I haven't cried at a lot of Game of Thrones things. I'm always like, yeah, fucking. That was the moment where I was like, fuck. That
Yeah, I'm not
that is
gotten a
the
lot of
best
sad
acting
ones.
between like a parent and child
Mhm.
because you don't get a lot of positive relationships in Game of Thrones between parents and their children.
Yeah, and this is the first time for him to really shine. To that
Yeah.
point, he's basically just been
Nobody.
standing there and be like, "Yes, mom. No, mom."
The kid character before him got a lot of cool scenes.
He had some good scenes.
and so like we haven't really seen him.
yeah, to this
do
point, he's
anything
literally
yet.
just standing there.
Yeah, and so we finally get that first scene at the beginning is really cool with him and not Torrhen Stark, but it's like Baron Stark or something,
Mhm.
which apparently is the only time we're seeing that character this whole season.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I
like
want some more.
yeah, I do too. But that scene is really cool. And in the book, like in the history, you find out that Stark, he had also lost his younger brother like 10
Mhm.
years previous.
Mhm.
And so not just in that moment, but like after that, in the rest of their relationship, he really took a liking to Jace as a friend because they both had such a similar grief,
Hmm.
and they become really good friends later. How long does that mean anyone lives? I don't know. Like, how long is that relationship going to happen? I don't know. I saw that those two characters, we're only going to see them once this season, but there is a relationship that forms there, like a brotherhood that forms there
Mhm.
between those two. But he kills it, and I think that season one and everything that happens the way it happens is because we're about to get an epic story of him. He's going to be the Robb Stark of this story.
Yeah, I think he's
He's going
definitely
to
going to be the John Robb character for his family. And man, but him and Aemond are going to go toe to toe at some
Yes,
point.
At some point.
And
I really love, again, though, I really want to highlight, if you look at Game of Thrones, every great family, no one likes each other in the family
Mhm.
unless it's like brother, sisters sometimes can have moments, but the Lannisters all hate each other. There's not a lot of love there unless it's really incestuous, gross love.
duty basically.
Yeah, it's all duty based. And then you have the Starks who do
duty
love
based.
duty based, based duty. If you do say, if I say so myself. But the Starks have a lot of love for each other, but you never see it because immediately they're all separated.
Mhm.
You know, like
Oh,
Ned
yeah,
Stark's with his family for an episode.
Mhm.
He has scenes with Sansa and Arya.
Yep.
And Arya is definitely the character he gets to like shine with the most in
Yep.
his family.
Yep.
And you do see the love there. But even that, it's buried under the next 7 seasons that you don't even remember that he
You had
is
to go
there.
back and look sometime.
Yeah, you have to go back and see that there's like these familial moments of love.
It's such a different show.
It's such a different show, and there's just it's not that there's no love, it's just the love isn't highlighted. And that scene of her and her son
Mhm.
and the embrace they have and the just grief that he's sharing, but trying to be the big, noble, doing his duty son
Mhm.
that he can be. And the way she just lets him break down and goes up to him because she's even sitting there like trying to be high and mighty for him
Mhm.
to let him be strong
Mhm.
so that she can allow him to be.
Yeah,
To me, it's the highlight scene of the episode. It's my favorite scene of the episode.
it's a good scene. It's a good
It's
scene.
a great scene.
It's
and
especially
she-
for them because that's I'm kind of still pissed off at both of them.
yeah, everybody. You're mad at everything that's
Mhm.
happening. And in that moment, you're allowed to say, well, sure, that's still everyone's grieving.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's making mistakes, but everyone's also grieving, and like they're allowed to be this upset at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a good scene, and it's acted so well by both of them. And I'm really hoping, is what I've seen so far is not amazing out of him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really hoping it's like a turning point for that character, and that the actor is so good at being able to be bland in the face of nothing's happened to this guy yet.
Yeah.
Now that his brother's
yeah.
gone and his mother is going to be in this position, maybe this guy is just such a gangster of an actor where he was purposely playing a very flat role Because you see that a lot in Game of
Well,
Thrones.
Rob's
where a
really
guy-
flat early on too.
until shit happens.
Theon's
and he
super
is the
flat.
best. They become these unbelievable.
Yep.
Um,
They're all very like similar. They don't stand apart.
who plays Rob? Richard Madden.
Mhm.
Richard Madden in Bodyguard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't. He
And-
win like an Emmy or something.
I think he either won or he was definitely nominated. Everything he's been in since.
Yeah.
He's steals every scene he's in.
Mhm.
Like you realize that sometimes these characters that you don't like right away, it's like the actor is doing it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And like to be like they really, and it's crazy how much control a good actor
If you're
can
that
have with a
good.
character. Yeah, because Theon Greyjoy, what's his name?
Alfie Allen.
Alfie Allen kills it. You hate Theon, and not only do you hate him, you don't really care about him in the beginning because he's so like one dimensional.
You dislike him.
You dislike him because of how bad of a job he's doing.
Yeah, he literally is with his captors being an asshole for them.
yeah,
You don't. He's not supposed to be likable, but then they make him likable because of what they put him through.
exactly.
So you could take these bland characters, and it's fine. I get what you're saying. He could be
Yeah.
that they want him to come off as
Yeah,
inconspicuous.
and then sometimes you just have actors who are playing a character who probably is supposed to be good, but they're not doing a good job, so you
Could
don't
be.
like them.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's the case with Jace. I
Yeah.
really want to like Jace.
Well, he's not. We've really had two opportunities to see him do anything. The first
Exactly.
scene where you see him and Aemon is practicing with swords, and he kind of like, "Will one of you join me?" And they like say one word, and then that scene.
yeah.
Other than that, they're basically standing next to each other the whole time.
Yeah, and him talking to the Starks, which I went back and watched that scene. I really like that scene because he has taken on the role of he's his mother's eldest son. He is, if this whole thing plays out, he is king,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows it, and he's doing what he's doing
Talk about the scene on the wall.
on the wall.
Yeah.
He's doing what he's doing for his family. Not
Mhm.
It's not about him ruling. He's not Aegon.
Mhm.
He's not doing this to be this big bad leader. He's doing this because he knows his mother's right and that the tenets her and Daemon are teaching are going to be what's right for him one day to be a ruler.
Yeah, he definitely is coming from a place of righteousness.
He's really drank the Kool-Aid of what his family's teaching him so far.
to this point. He's done nothing wrong though, because he's not in. Has nothing to do with his father.
Yeah. It's really, I really love it. Also is really sick the nod of one, the Stark theme to open the episode, letting you know where you're at, and two, being on the wall, letting you know, like, remember, the reason that we're not going to see a lot of this is because we're 150 years before there's nobody left on the wall. We know there's some shit out here. Dragons won't pass this wall.
That's what I was
Which
hoping.
is, I was really annoyed by that little plot hole that developed in Game of Thrones all of a sudden of Daenerys' dragons flying past the wall. No problem. Like,
That's true.
they did it in 12 seconds. Like as soon as she was like, we gotta get over there, they were like, yeah, let's go shit
Well,
up.
and maybe we could
Who
hide that
cares
by
about
saying,
ice zombies?
well, she's the mother of dragons, so maybe they
Yeah.
listen to her a little bit more.
I guess.
Or maybe the Night King wanted a dragon, so maybe whatever they were doing
Whatever,
to
like
scare
weird
the
evil.
dragon, he let a bait to allow them to come over the wall.
Yeah,
so
like
that
maybe
he could get
for a long
one.
time there was spells that were like keeping them away.
Mhm.
I guess. Yeah, I guess there's all kinds of easy
Who,
ways to
who
ride around it.
knows? Yeah,
It was just that was immediately the first thing I was like, I don't know if I like how
I was
easy it is to think
expecting
about.
when they get to the top of the wall and the camera's lifting up. I knew this was the time where the wall was at its might. Like
Yeah.
there was thousands of people manning these different
You had
castles.
1 in every 10 Starks manning the wall.
Yeah,
that's
a lot of people.
That's a lot of people, and that's a really cool, like in the like royal family of the Starks.
Yeah,
like
so
1 in
who
10.
knows what other people were doing
Yeah.
in there? Probably the same, because if the royal family's doing it, they're probably expecting you to do the same.
Yeah, well,
So I
all
was-
criminals and other people are all sent regardless.
I was hoping that when they did it, you'd be able to see this huge castle with all these different, just like this. I was hoping to see that so bad.
Yeah,
But
but
then
it probably is. We probably still might see it.
I'm
and
sure we
it probably
will.
is there
They want to drip.
because Castle Black is like not even. It was like the 4th or 5th biggest. It wasn't
Yeah,
even, I think
that's
there's,
just
like,
the
a couple-
central one in the wall.
Yeah,
So,
it'd be cool to have a whole show based at the wall and like at a time where there's civil wars with the wildlings and maybe a time
these are
where
some of the best episodes.
yeah they are.
Wonder-
It'd be hard to write a show about that. I feel like to stick in that place the whole time.
It's a difficult
That's what they were
setting
trying to do with
deal
Jon
with.
Snow. They were trying to do that with the Jon Snow show, and it fell through and is no longer happening.
Yeah, I thought that they heard somewhere that they still wanted to try and do it, but
They do. Kit Harington is the big. He was like executive producer, one of the writers. Like he was the like
yeah, because his
biggest.
career's fallen off a cliff.
Not really. He went to like emotional rehab because he missed being on Game of Thrones. Like that dude fell in love with being around that kind of production. And like everything he's done since is so small in comparison.
Well, he did Pompeii right after, and that
Yeah,
was a
well,
huge
Pompeii was so bad.
bust. It was a
It
dumb
was
pick for
nothing.
him.
Yeah, and then
He did
then
like
the
an action
Eternals,
movie.
and then he did the Eternals, and
Well,
he's
he's
like okay.
still
in
supposed to be in that.
it. Yeah. He still is. It's just that like it's such a nothing production compared to Game of Thrones, and he apparently he had a very emotional connection with Jon Snow and emotional connection with all the people involved.
Mhm.
Because Tyrion, Peter Dinklage said it best. You know, when they go to Croatia, they were in Croatia for 8 months of the year. Like
Mhm.
they had houses there. Like they had friends and like places they went every day, coffee shops, and like for 8 years they lived
Mhm.
in a place.
It's basically vacation in their regular homes.
Yeah, exactly. For a giant portion of their lives. So someone like Kit Harington, who literally his first acting job is
Mhm.
playing Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, and then for 8 seasons of a show
That's it.
that took 10 years to make,
And in a big part of his life where he's like a young adult and
meets his wife on the show, marries her,
Egret.
Rose Leslie, who, God, I mean, Jesus, like talk about hitting the lottery,
Right?
Like, talk about like Brad and Angelina. Like I don't care about Brad and Angelina. I look at Kit Harington and Rose Leslie, and she has like had to help him because she like it was easier for her because she's only in a couple seasons. He's in the entire show.
I didn't
like-
know that he went to emotional rehab. I don't mean to laugh, but
It is a little silly when you look at it, but like,
But I'm not gonna live
like
that life.
break the funny out of it. Like the idea of how silly of a thing it is. Imagine for 10 years your livelihood. Like forget about your livelihood. It is attached to your livelihood, but forget about the fact that it's your livelihood. Your day-to-day interactions with the people in your life is Game of Thrones.
I know.
And it's the people who
That's the
think
most
of the makeup.
awesome life.
Think about the makeup people. Think about all the people
Mm-hmm.
who are think about our boy who won 7 Emmys for Lead Snow, dog. Imagine Snow Guy. You know him. You're friends with Lead Snow. You're friends with 7
What am I
time
saying?
Emmy Award winning
The
Lead
Snow
Snow.
Guy.
You're friends with all of these like top of the echelon people in television. That show won more Emmys than any show ever has.
Yeah.
And
You forget that.
and then you go and do Pompeii. You're surrounded by mediocrity and like lame assholes
and
that
a
you're not
sound stage somewhere.
on a soundstage somewhere. You're used to the Game of Thrones people and like the level of acting. Like you know what you don't hear a lot about Game of Thrones actors? You don't hear a lot of scandal. They're not like
No.
they're not like the shitty Hollywood people that are
They're the
making,
good Hollywood people.
They're the good Hollywood, the stage actors. They're like these.
There's a
big-
lot of stage actors.
They're all
that they
these
pull.
English, like honorable stage actors. These people that are like doing it for the art, not
Yes,
for the money.
For their
They don't
career is
care.
the art of acting.
So let's take 18-year-old Kit Harington, first acting gig.
Well, I think he was actually a little older than that.
He might have been like 20, but
Yeah,
like it's his
yeah.
first acting job is Jon Snow.
Well, he's in his 30s now. I know for
Yeah.
sure.
So he goes from first job being Game of Thrones, and for 10 years
hmm
he's making Game of Thrones. For a decade of his life, for the third decade of his life, you're talking. He spends more. What do you remember from being a 10-year-old? Nothing,
Nothing.
right? Like, dude, like at 20 years old, you're consciously capable of remembering a fourth of your life. You sleep for a third of the day. So at 20 years old, you remember 14 years of your life consciously.
Nothing.
And then if you really take it, what do you remember from before you're 10 that means anything?
Mhm.
Nothing. So from 10 to 20, you're alive. 7 years of that, you're awake. You remember 7 years of 20 years of your life. And now you do 10 years. Your 10 most prominent years of aging, 20 to 30, like in terms of what you remember and like
Mhm.
the best time of your life, you're working on Game of Thrones, traveling the world, advertising
Exotic
Game of
locations.
Thrones in exotic locations. Jon Snow goes to all the places
With hot women.
with hot women that you marry. You meet hot women, you like 3 of them on screen, one of them you marry for real. Dude, I mean, this guy had it all, and then has to go to the go do Pompeii, go do the Eternals. The Eternals is cool. He's in it for 6 minutes. I really like that.
I
movie.
like Eternals quite a bit.
I liked it way more than everyone seemed to like. Me and my friend Marcy, we're the only people we know that like that movie.
It's one of my more liked Marvel films out. But most people did not like that movie at
People
all.
really hated that
It was
movie.
a slow burn.
I liked it a lot. I still like it. I've watched it a few times. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
One
I don't
thing
know how
I
we got to that.
no, it
But Kit Harington, I feel for you. I'm unironically, I feel for you. Paul will laugh, and I'll laugh a little.
it's
but
silly.
unironically-
It's silly, but I feel for you too.
Being two guys who live where we live and do what we do, it's like silly thinking that you would go through such a thing. But like, I try and put myself.
I
in the-
probably
in the
would have
shoes.
if I was him too, because my career would probably been worse afterwards. One thing I did want to mention issue with this scene. Where in the hell are all the guards when they're killing that kid at the end of the movie?
Right. Well, so there's, he has the one, it's kind of a throwaway line, but it kind of is the insurance for that question is set up a rat trap, make it look right. There are people there in that part of the Red Keep doing that on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So like they kind of can blend in, whether they pass by people or not, they sort of are okay being where they're at doing
But
what
she
they're doing.
runs when she leaves the room.
And
She
there's
goes
no one.
quite a distance before she sees anyone.
Yeah.
You would think
They're
you're
probably not in I guess that's like the private area. There's hallways
but you
and
would think
stuff.
that there would be some
Someone.
guard somewhere nearby.
Well, there was one. Kristen Cole was guarding pretty good.
He was a little busy, if you understand my
lexicon.
I was not prepared for that scene whatsoever.
He was doing a great job protecting.
That's not
Allison.
the third time we've
Allison
seen
was
him.
in good hands.
Third or
nothing
fourth
was
time.
happening to her.
She's taken full advantage of Kristen Cole's abilities.
Yes, abilities and his
He's a great swordsman.
weakness. He sure is. He's a great swordsman.
All right.
He beat Damon.
He did. He did.
That's
I forgot
how
about
that's
that.
how he got his spot on the Kingsguard.
Well, that and he had actual combat experience. That's why she
Yes.
gets picked above the other four.
Because before then, like so many people for many generations, they'd been at peace for like 60 years or
Mhm.
something. Like you didn't have to be a gangster to be on the Queen.
She had to
King or
have a
Queen's
cool
Guard.
armor set.
Yeah.
I like to rate things out of 10 for whatever strange reason. So I didn't know if you you could rate this episode out of 10.
If I was like comparing it to season 1 and all of those episodes, this is a pretty strong episode.
Mhm.
I would probably 1 out of 10. I'd probably have it at a clean like. I'm not gonna give like a solo answer. It would be like between like a 8.1 and like a 9.
Yeah,
It's somewhere
I
in
get you.
there. It's definitely
It's-
a very powerful episode. There's never a moment in that episode where I feel like I want to look away.
Yeah, and here's the
very
issue
glued
that you
to
run into with it, and why maybe I gave it a 7 out of 10, and that's the issue with it is not that it's bad. My movie scale, obviously, the people that have seen this channel know that if I give something a 6 or better, that means I found it very watchable.
Yeah.
So 7.8 is almost an 8. That means to me it's very good. The issue with season openers is the issue you get with all season openers. You got to untie these storylines that they just tied up at the end of last season.
And then we haven't seen for 2 years.
We've got to open the storylines back up again, let them breathe. They're going to put new characters. They're going to recast. They're going to change the way characters look. They're going to change the way scenes look slightly, even though it's the same place. So we have to get used to all that again. And so I think if you're comparing it to other season openers, just season openers, I think it's a much higher score. But in comparison to, the climax episodes, the finales, it's going to suffer a little bit, but it has to. There's
Yeah.
just no way around it. This was never going to be the quintessential episode of this show or this season
Yeah.
in its slightest. But it does a good job of setting things up from here. And I left it in my book bag because I had 2 questions I wanted to ask you
Okay.
about going forward.
I like questions. I like answering questions.
I should have brought them on set. Now I'm off set, but you can hear my voice.
The craziest part of it, like, are any of your videos like in this
Nope.
setup? So
We did one. The last time I had someone that was not a regular guest on, I filmed on the green screen over there.
yeah,
And I
this
thought about
room because
doing
like to this camera, like they have no idea how far you just went. Like, I mean, you just went like probably further than any room in any of our houses would be. Like
Yeah.
we're in a legit
This
giant
is
room.
This
in
is
a studio.
an actual sound studio.
Yeah.
Normally we film at my dad's house. But we filmed an SNL episode, like best SNL characters over there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the AC was broken, so I put us on a lava
Yeah.
mountain, freaking volcano. I
so
guess
it
is
made
what they
sense that you
call
were
those.
sweating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought about doing that and putting us in like the Red Keep, but it made the episode so long to edit that I was like, screw
Yeah.
that noise. All right, questions.
Questions.
All right, so they set up at the end, before the end, that Larry's is setting up a new Hand of the King. So who do you think will be the Hand of the King to replace them if they do replace them?
I mean, I feel like Laris is very much trying to position himself.
That was my
more
first
than anyone
thought.
because I think he just gets everything he wants so far.
Yes.
He really is like the master manipulator of the show as it stands. But
Well, he's definitely got his foot on the pulse of things.
he sucked. That was terrible. How dare you?
Sorry.
That was awesome. I don't know if it's not Laris. Like the only people that make sense are people who are already in positions of power within the family potentially, or within those families. I could also see them like olive branching out to try and take Rhaenyra's allies and offer it to someone like Rhaenys
Mm-hmm.
or her husband.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel
Or
like
can they introduce another character we've
they
not
could.
seen?
Yeah, they could definitely introduce a character we haven't seen yet, which would be like. I'm not saying they need to do it, but it would be very Games of Thrones of them, and they need to definitely stick to reintroducing and introducing new characters
You
altogether.
have to.
You have to, because this show has a pretty sick cast already, but
People die.
people die and they're going to keep dying
Mhm.
for sure.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yes.
You
Yes.
can't
yes.
fall into the like season 5 through 8 problem Game of Thrones had of
Mhm.
no longer
Especially
letting
after you
go.
kill so many people for the first seasons. It
Yes.
becomes a necessity almost. Why
And-
you have so many kids if you can't kill a bunch of them off?
I understand bringing back Jon Snow. I
Mhm.
get it. That
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense
yeah,
whether
yeah.
you kill a bunch of people or not, but like he can't be the last. He really is the last true holy shit death.
Mm-hmm. And there's what, 3 seasons after that?
Yeah,
2.5
6, 7, 8. Yeah. 3 whole seasons. I
Yeah.
mean, it's and waiting to the last 3 episodes to kill off the next half of your characters is so lame. Like,
And then you have the big war. At
we
the
know
end.
that that's going to happen in the last season.
But
We
then,
know that by
then
the
there's
end.
the battle at the end, and not really anybody dies.
Yeah, Jaime and Cersei die at the end.
That's
The
what-
Hound and the Mountain die.
But as far as like other
Qyburn
characters,
dies, like-
you're expecting people to die in that big battle at Winterfell, and it kind of everybody
Yeah,
survives. Really.
Everyone that dies is like B characters and Jorah.
yeah,
Like,
but
Jorah
you knew
dies.
Jorah was gonna die.
You knew Jorah was going to die. Beric Dondarrion dies. Melisandre finally dies. Dolores Ed dies. Who else dies at that battle? Like, other people die, but it's like all the characters that you're like, okay, what's the safest characters to kill this episode? And they just keep doing that.
Yeah, they didn't kill
Sam
any
should have
people
died.
That,
Like,
that
not
you
because I
wanted
dislike
them to
Sam. Like,
die.
we needed those deaths, but we needed them in season 6 and 7.
the sacrifice needed to be worth it.
Yeah, we needed crazy deaths to happen the way Game of Thrones does it. That's why those seasons fall flat for so many people.
Yeah.
I'm always going to give love even to season 8 because season 8 of Game of Thrones is still a better season of TV than almost any drama has ever been able to produce.
Sure. I think my issue with it was just a rush. They were just a rush.
It's such a
through.
rush, and
That's it.
but like you're saying, they also really do fall out of line once there's not a lot of book material.
Yeah.
I read the books once the show was like I finished reading the books after the show was done,
Mhm.
and excuse me, the amount of stuff they pulled from book 5 all the way back in seasons 3, 4, and 5
Mhm.
is like they were really starting to stretch for content.
Yeah.
They were pulling stuff from book 5 and just doing it way early.
Mhm.
And they get away with it, and like it's crazy when you read it, but the way that book 5 ends, I'm like, the direction they ended up taking this story is so different than what it's going to be, and
Mhm.
so much it flounders so much worse than it would have. Because have you read the books at all?
I haven't finished them, but I know what happens.
You do?
I've heard.
Okay. You care if I say stuff?
No, go ahead. This is all. There's no
the final
spoilers or
the final
spoilers.
chapter of book 5 of Game of Thrones
Mhm.
is the greatest chapter of fiction I've ever read.
Mhm.
The stuff that they set up, the 2 children, Daenerys' older brother,
Mhm.
that got killed by the Mountain when the Mountain and Tywin came and ransacked King's Landing,
Mhm.
never died.
Mhm.
And the way that Varys sets him up, the last chapter is from what's his name, Kevin Lannister's point of view.
Mhm.
Kevin Lannister takes the place of Grandmaster Pycelle in the show when he gets killed and Qyburn is in control of the spies.
Mhm.
Instead, Kevin has just taken control after Cersei has been brought back to the Red Keep
Mhm.
after being imprisoned with the what are they called, the High Sparrow.
Yeah, the high speed. My bad.
And he's handling all that, and Varys comes in and has him killed. And Varys unloads the whole plot, telling Kevin Lannister, "I'm sorry this had to happen to you, Kevin Lannister. You are one of the only good people here. You're one of the only people that remind me of Ned Stark.
Mhm.
You let your honor dictate what you do. And because of that, we can't allow you to stay in power. Because you're the only one here that will do what is right for the few and not the right for the many.
Mhm.
And there's one person that is able to do what is right for the many. One person that came from nothing, who had it all and was pushed down to the ashes of an empire. And we've trained him." And he's like building up Daenerys' older brother. And that came out 13 years ago. That book came out in 2011, and we still don't have the next book. And it's the greatest setup for the next 2 books.
Yeah, my knowledge about the older brother is like nothing.
There is no knowledge.
Yeah.
In the show, they don't even bring it up.
Well, yeah, but even as
But
far as
in
the
the
books,
book, there's no knowledge. In the
Mhm.
book, you know nothing
he
until
just
that chapter.
says something that point. That's it.
That's you kind of know there's a character in charge of the Golden Company.
Mhm.
There's this guy
Okay.
that they haven't mentioned who he is,
Because
or
they
what
talked
his-
about mentioning that when this show was running, who that
Yeah.
was going to be.
and you do know, like, at certain points that whoever it is, you have heard him, you have seen him and heard his voice in the pages of the book,
Mhm.
but you don't know who he is yet.
Okay.
And then you find out in that final chapter, like, holy shit, this whole thing, Varys and Illyrio Martell
Mhm.
or Mytel, whatever it is, the guy that was housing Viserys and
Yes.
Daenerys at the beginning of the
Yep.
show, they've been conspiring and snuck that kid out
Mhm.
all the way back and when that happened, and have been keeping him alive. And it is like such a neat like pin drop.
I didn't know.
Yeah, and it's so sick. And that's the last chapter
Yeah.
of the book that came out in 2000. It came out the same year Game of Thrones came out, and we've not got the next book yet.
Come on, man.
It's killing me.
You're going to die before you write
right?
stuff.
Like
he's getting old.
He's 350 pounds and he's 74 or
How
something.
much more time do you have, bro? Come on.
Yeah, like he's read chapters at events.
hmm
I don't know if this was an answer to a question or what it
Well,
was.
I remember we were talking about who would be the next hand. But
yeah,
it's
and
fine.
I have no.
Yeah, well, my thing was I don't think it's going to be Laris because I think he's too smart to put himself in the crossfire. I think
Yeah.
they're going to my only character that's there so far that I think would be the Master of Coin being brought up because he was sort of the only other person with
He was
Otto. There
definitely
was a
shamed this
conspirator.
episode too.
Yeah.
I could see, and the Lannisters have to come into power.
Yeah, well, he's also got his brother too.
Yeah,
So maybe him, but I honestly think my money's going to be that they're going to just bring somebody else.
somebody
in.
new
They'll bring someone, a friend, a family member, something like
who
that.
ultimately will perish and will like them.
And then my other question was, what will be the king's recourse for his son's murder? And you may already know the answer to this question.
I don't know the answer to this
Okay,
question.
so what do you
I
think?
don't know anything. The only thing I really remember from hearing about this a couple years ago was stuff that goes down with Daemon and his story.
Mhm.
I think blind rage is about to ensue.
Yeah.
Because it's either the next episode or the third episode is like feature length film. It's like 90 minutes.
Mhm.
There's like a feature length movie episode about to
Okay.
happen. It's either the second or third episode. And so I feel like it's probably going to be this next episode.
I think the next episode is going to begin with every rat catcher in the city is going to be dead.
Oh, yeah.
They're all going to be like lined up dead.
Oh, like heads on spikes everywhere. And they might fly all those heads on a dragon and drop a net of them on Dragonstone.
So-
like Vagar might do
I
it.
could totally
He's-
see that.
He's going
or
to
He could get on his dragon and go
him and his
burn the
dragon
blockade.
and Vagar, everybody. Like all 4 dragons they have available are about to go. Like he's about to flip off Otto Hightower and tell any guard if you touch me, I'll have your families killed. Like
Yeah.
I'm about to go nuts.
But then,
And he's
but
about
that
to go
might
crazy.
leave open King's Landing.
Exactly, and Daemon's already there.
Yes.
It's something. It's definitely going to be like a bunch of chess pieces, and queens and rooks are about to get sacrificed.
Yeah, I think we're gonna definitely see them take advantage of his bullheadedness in this for his son, and I'm excited
because if we weren't endeared to the son that episode, we were endeared to the fact that he loves his son.
I think
lot.
it made him a likable character in the end.
He was not like he's definitely the comic relief and like the this guy's cool episode. Even
Yeah.
though we don't love him, we don't.
He's a little
dislike him.
pompous, but you
Yeah.
don't hate him.
He's like a stray dog. You're like, we're not gonna feed you, but like we don't mind if you hang out.
Yeah, just
You-
don't bother me.
yeah, don't bother me. And he says funny stuff, and he chases off the annoying dog that you really don't like. You're like, you're cool. I don't hate you. You're kind
You
of
don't
cool.
bark as loud as the Chihuahua
Yeah,
does.
exactly. Yeah, and so I don't know, but I feel like Aemon and Daemon are about to get what they want, and that's about to be anarchy. Shit's about to go crazy and on Dragonback.
I think we're going to see at least a scene of either Aemon or Daemon on their dragon just against a city of fire.
Yeah, it's gonna be
it's going to be
unbelievable.
badass.
It's gonna be sick.
So,
excited
and what
for
is
it.
it? It's every Sunday, right?
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
How early did you watch it yesterday? Because you
I watched
said-
it like noon or like midnight.
Yeah, I didn't even know it came out that. I thought it came out at like 9 o'clock.
It was at 6 p.m. I saw, but I thought when I woke up and texted you, or when I texted you, I hadn't checked to see what time. I assumed it was already out at that point.
Okay, I got
But
you.
I didn't watch it until literally almost like 12:30, 1 a.m.
Oh, okay. We watched it at the same time.
Yeah, and then I put it on
Okay.
this morning while I was working out. I put it
Yeah.
on in the background. So.
Yeah, that's why I was
And I'm not
getting
turning
all the
you back on.
highlights. Yeah, you.
I'm not turning you back on. Sorry.
Yeah.
The episode's over anyway.
We got to find a. We're gonna have to get that image. You're gonna have to edit an image that you
I
make like a
did.
2-hour.
I did.
Why didn't you just leave it on?
Because I didn't set it up all the way, and I didn't feel like dealing with it once I got that far.
I got you.
I knew this was going to take a while, and I didn't know what else you had to do, so I didn't want to.
It's okay. I
So,
understand.
but next time,
next time,
and I would have played the trailer on a
if
loop.
this happens again, I can't tell by how good this has gone. If Paul
I'll
still
do it
likes
every
me.
time. I'll do it every time.
I
would like
I just
to-
mean I don't know if I'm getting invited back. I don't know if Paul likes me or if
I would
actually-
like to have. I'd like to find other people too. I'd like to
Yeah.
get maybe two more people on here and do 4 people and
As
really
much-
get into it.
As much as I would love to do that, I don't know anybody that loves the show like you and me do.
That's what I'm saying.
That
That's
we
why
know.
you were the first person that I was like, I know Chris, because we thought about doing YouTube in here years ago.
Yeah.
We were doing, and there's still one of the lists is still on the back
Yeah.
of that dry erase board.
We
did
had a top
10
list,
lists for everything.
top 10 characters that are in less than 10 episodes of Game of Thrones.
Bro, we went.
We
I'm
went
telling you.
for like 2 weeks. We wrote this episode and never made it.
Well, we went through more than one episode. We had
Yeah.
made a bunch of different top 10 lists. We just never filmed it.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, if you want to be on here, we'll find a way to get you on here to Zoom, whatever. Comment, like, subscribe. What are your thoughts on the 2 questions? What do you think is going to happen hand-wise, and what do you think is going to happen with the King's rage for his son's death?
The hand. What's gonna happen hand wise? Definitely.
What's going to happen to the hand job?
Yeah, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen next? Who's gonna be in the hands? Who's gonna be in the feet? We already have a foot guy, and we have Kristen Cole, who's just sad,
The foot guy is going to take care of the hand guy's job.
which is hilarious. The memes that are gonna come from this guy's face, because he looks like a scumbag. He looks like the guy who's into
I
what he's
knew
into.
from the moment I saw his foot
What
sideways.
weird sex scene are we gonna see with this?
I'm
guy?
like, this dude is going to be a piece of crap somewhere down the line.
when he killed his dad and his brother in a
Oh, like
fire.
nothing for like
Like,
nothing.
And didn't think about it.
No, and I
Like
I
it was so easy.
I
for him
think
to do
he
it.
did it and then told the queen that he did it.
It's so crazy that he's related to Rhaenyra's children.
It is true.
That's their uncle
That's true. Yes.
by blood.
Forget that sometimes.
It's weird the like connections that characters have with other Game of Thrones did it really well too, where you have characters who never even meet that
Mhm.
are like effectively like best friends, like they could be best friends,
Mhm.
and they meet one time and then die. It's crazy.
that's
I mean,
why Game
anyway,
of Thrones is awesome.
It's so good.
That's why Game of
You
Thrones.
can make so many connections.
Yes, but like, subscribe the channel Rotten Potatoes. I don't know if you have any social media that you want to plug or anything you care about.
I'll write it down.
Okay, I'll put it
in
on
the
screen.
description and
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah. But tune in next week. Same good time, same good place for all of the Game of Thrones, House of Dragon content that your little hearts can desire. And we'll see you next time at the movies.
Kill me.